おはようございます。新共和国パイロットです。今日もマイクロソフトフライトシミュレーターの公式集会に、参加していきたいと思います。で、今日飛行するのはですね、ここがアメリカ、北アメリカ大陸ですね。で、アメリカ、カナダ、ここら辺かな、カナダが。で、カナダのこの東北の方にあるニューファンドランド島っていうところを今日は飛行していきます。で、夕方の6時ぐらいですね、現地時間なので、今日はリアルタイムのライブウェザーで飛んでいこうと思います。これはまた寒そうですね。おはようございます。よろしくお願いします。テイクオフ行きますぜ。なんでこのフラフラすごい横風があるのか。
Alright, I'm seeing a comment here saying the background music is loud. Earlier people were saying the volume was perfect. Can we get an update from chat? Is the music at a good level? Is it too loud, too quiet? I suspect we're probably going to get people say all three of those. So let's just see what the consensus from chat is here.
All of the above, probably.
People are saying it's good. Okay, I'm not going to touch it.
今離陸した飛行場ですな。
All right. Well, we're en route to our first waypoint. It's the POI. We are heading towards Cabot Tower, also known as Signal Hill. This is probably the most famous landmark in all of Newfoundland. It's of a very important
Tower Extra 145 frequency change.
If you look where Newfoundland is on the map, it's actually the point in North America that is closest to Europe. And so in the early 20th century, the Italian inventor Marconi actually set up shop on Signal Hill in Newfoundland, near the Cabot Tower landmark, and for the first time ever broadcast a wireless Morse code signal across the Atlantic Ocean. And that is a very important development in the history of human communication, and it took place right here in St. John's.
うわ、なんか凍ってる。あれこれ、この飛行機俺あれ知らねえ。
Below me, let me just switch to my screen for a second. Below me there are those buildings. That is the Memorial University of Newfoundland, known as MUN to the locals and to the students who attend there.
どこだ。
Brad Barron says there are icebergs and ice floes around St. John's right now. Yes, depending on the time of year, if you go to St. John's and visit this place and look out over the Atlantic Ocean, there are massive icebergs that float past, and it's actually a very popular activity for tourists to actually go iceberg watching.
Look at the traffic maps in here. It's really ridiculous.
うわ、なんか凍ってる。寒い。
If you look at my screen.
There you
go. あんのこれ。
Tigger says if we donate $100, will you kiss a codfish at the end of the stream? Well, I was actually going to talk about that, Tigger. I'm glad you brought that up. There is no need for me to kiss a codfish because I already have been screeched in. And I'm going to talk what that means, what being screeched in, what that is. We'll bring that up later, though.
わかんねえ。
But maybe Peter or Tom can kiss
凍っとるかな。
I won't look at. I won't spoil myself.
Okay, thanks. Bye. I'm doing great. Welcome in. Nice to see you.
Is it
シールドのヒーターの使い方がわからん。
Alright, well, you know what? I wasn't going to say this
Heard that
earlier,
already.
but since it's been brought up, we may have to discuss it now. So in Newfoundland, there are very friendly and welcoming people by reputation, and I can attest to this. I know many Newfoundlanders. I actually am from the east coast of Canada originally, not Newfoundland itself, but from the maritime provinces. And they have
キーボード
a
も知らない。キー
tradition
ボードでやったことがないな。
in Newfoundland, or whenever there's a
Those are new.
gathering of Newfoundland people with non-Newfoundland people, who they call, by the way, their affectionate name for people who are not from Newfoundland who are visiting. They call them "come from a ways." That's the word they use. But you can become an honorary Newfoundlander, and there's a very important tradition and ritual you must complete to become the honorary Newfoundlander, and that is you must
ない
take
の
a
か
shot
この飛行機も
of
しかして。
Newfie Screech.
まあ知ら
And
な
what
い。今から
Screech
でも
is,
どんどん
this
寒
goes
くなっ
back
てい
to
く
the
んだ。
day of sail when both Newfoundland and Jamaica were both British colonies at the time, and both island nations on the Atlantic Ocean, and so there were a lot of sailing ships and cargo ships that would sail between these two British territories of Jamaica and Newfoundland. And one of the big
ホ
imports
ットエアエン
from
トリ
Jamaica
ー。
was a particular brand of dark rum, very
Oh,
strong,
no.
high-test dark rum, known as Screech. At least that's what the people in Newfoundland call it. And so, in order to become an honorary Newfoundlander,
も
the tradition that you must complete as an outsider, as a come from away, as they would say, you must do a shot of Newfie Screech, and then immediately after drinking the shot, you must kiss a codfish, an actual literal codfish, on the mouth. And
う、
I
でも
personally
違う
have
方
done
と
this.
思ってどこ行っ
When I was a university
No,
student
cool.
in Atlantic Canada, many of my friends in my college days were from Newfoundland. And during a college party one night, they welcomed all the non-Newfoundlanders to undergo the screeched-in ritual.
And I think that's what's
た。なんかデタラメに寒そうなとこやな。
No, I think my my other body disconnected because of my brother fluctuating. So let me be behind that axis.
DC3 の変態でも見に行きますか。
Yeah, I believe that's the Atlantic Research Center. Yeah, it's scientific.
これいなくなっちゃった。
I believe on like maritime studies. Of course, the fishery industry has played a very large part. This is where the codfish comes in. Played a very large part in the history of Newfoundland. In the 1990s, the federal government, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, determined that there was overfishing taking place, and it was no longer sustainable. The fish were being caught at a rate faster than they could be replenished. And so the federal government, for environmental sustainability, stepped in and really put a lot of regulations and restrictions on the amount of fish that could be caught. For a lot of Newfoundlanders, that spelled a really tough time economically for them. Not just the fishermen themselves, the people who would go out on the boats and catch the fish, but also the supporting industries, the shipbuilding, ship repair, the cannery operations, fish cleaning, all that stuff. This was the #1 employer on the island of Newfoundland. And because of environmental sustainability, the federal government really had to put very harsh restrictions. And so now, since the 1990s, a lot of Newfoundlanders had to leave their home province in search of employment, and many of them have ended up in the Canadian province of Alberta, where they work in the oil industry, and in particular in the town of Fort McMurray. And it's said, and I believe this is statistically accurate, if, other than St. John's itself, which is the capital city of the second largest concentration of Newfoundlanders anywhere in the world is in Fort McMurray, Alberta. And that's a direct result of the fisheries industry really being curtailed, and a lot of Newfoundlanders having to relocate to find work.
In the oil industry. just flying.
Yeah.
Ooh, Obsidian
I'd
Ant
like-
did a face unveiling. I haven't seen that
just
yet.
saw that. So, guess what? It's either the image you had of the person who created it in your mind is really close, or it's
So I'm guessing, I could be wrong, but just from the sound of his voice alone, I picture him as having like a thick, bushy beard. Maybe I have totally the wrong impression of what he looks like. I don't know.
he has a beard. It's not as.
Oh, sorry.
I'm talking about the aviation history in Newfoundland. Again, if you look where Newfoundland is located on the map, as we mentioned, it is sort of the closest point between North America and Europe. And so in the early days of transatlantic flights, before aircraft had the range they do today to make a non-stop flight across the Atlantic Ocean, Newfoundland was kind of the either first or last waypoint, depending which way you're going. If you're going to Europe, it was the sort of last stop, and if you're coming from Europe, it was the first stop, arriving in North America, where planes would stop and refuel. So there were actually very large airfields with very long runways in Newfoundland, which would not be typical for a region with the population that it has. And a lot of the towns here, including Gander, where we are going today for a touch-and-go landing, Gander has a population of roughly 10,000 people, and yet it has a very huge airfield. Multiple 10,000 runways, which would be very, very non-typical for a town of that
も
size.
この人もよく見るかける人だな。
Very important that Gander
It's
did
a-
have runways that long. When we get there, we'll talk more about that story. I don't want to give any
いい
spoilers. If you didn't
330で
read
飛んで見える方
the
ですね。
description for today's fly-in, I did allude
ちょ
to
っ
that.
と近づいてみますか。
We'll talk about that in much more detail.
Oh,
Of course, I did mention
や
earlier,
っ
and
と
I
コ
say
ッ
this,
クと
you know,
クリアになった
I'm a very experienced world traveler. I've been to 30 plus countries on 5 continents, and I have always been treated very well by local people everywhere I go. People are always super friendly and welcoming. So I don't say this lightly. I would say, out of anyone I have ever met anywhere, Newfoundlanders are by far the most friendly people. It's really incredible how accepting and welcoming they are. Flying Cook Gas, if there is one place you could revisit, where would you go, CD? Japan. No question, I would go back to Japan. I've told this story a few times. Whenever I travel somewhere and I go on a trip and I'm at the airport to come home and I'm going to board my flight, I sort of think to myself, wow, that was a fantastic trip. What a lovely country to visit. I had a great time here. What should I do next? Where will I go for my next vacation? The only exception to that was when I was at Tokyo Narita Airport. I thought to myself, wow, this was a fantastic trip. I really loved it. When can I come back? I want to go back to Japan right away. That's the only time I've ever thought. Yeah, no question. That's the answer to that question.
Being interested.
Who are you? Oh, you got a dark. I'm assuming that's Hex the Legend.
I'm assuming that blindly. Not sure. I think we are pretty sure, right? Oh, there he is.
Hex is.
Yes. I was name is showing as well. So. How can he type and fly at the same time? Huh. Must be a clone or something. Something's fishy.
寒そうですな
Dark Star? There is, I think, right?
There is.
Yeah. I will confess, I've actually only flown the Dark Star one time. I did the challenge to fly from Edwards to Kennedy Space Center and got that achievement. And I have actually not flown the Dark Star since. Hex says there's not an autopilot.
No, yeah. remember now. We don't have any panels options.
I've flown I did the same scene. I did the mission and succeeded in that, getting it finally to Mac 10 Plus. Landed
CRG は
safely.
持ってないし DC 付きか
I've got a beautiful group of planes behind me here. I've got the Antonov AN2. I've got the Junkers Ju-52. Got a Beechcraft Bonanza, Diamond 62, a Spitfire, Cirrus SO22. Got a de Havilland Canada Caribou. That's on brand for today's flight in Newfoundland. I always love the seeing all the different planes that people choose to fly on Flying Friday.
Twin Otter. Oh, there's a. Oh, actually, we have a native to Newfoundland here. The Pelican.
Well, it's Edarin flying the.
Homestead. Twin Otter.
GG's Movie Hole says, CD, do you guys have most of the third-party aircraft? I own a few. I have the Cirrus Vision Jet. I think it's probably my favorite one for third-party planes. I have a few of the jets too. The MB339. Actually, just go back to my screen. There it is, right there. Someone else is flying an MB339, so that'll show up correctly. I also have the Hawk. But yeah, mainly I don't have a lot of third-party jets. I find that honestly, for me, the first-party planes really suit my needs. I'm a GA guy. I know if you're an air, like doing simulated airliner flights, things like the Phoenix A320 or the PMDG 737. I know those are extremely popular with the community, but that's not what I personally enjoy flying. So I kind of stick to GA, and really for my needs, you're really the first-party stuff really has everything I could want.
I think the short answer to this question is no. We don't own most third-party planes. We each own a few which we like because we buy them. But it's not that we have the vast majority of third-party airplanes for here to show. So a lot of airplanes here do show up as generic GA planes. Like this one here now.
Well, speaking of the Vision Jet, Sim Tom is flying today, and that's a wild Galaxy livery you've got in there. Looks like the Pillars of Creation from the Hubble Space Telescope, or maybe the newly updated version from James Webb.
It's the Carina Nebula, actually.
Oh, okay.
This is one of the first ones they released.
I don't have it, for example. So when you fly next to me, I'll see you as a Bonanza, probably.
Brad Barron has an interesting reference here. CD says Alcock and Brown mentioned. Yeah, okay, here's a bit of aviation trivia for you folks, again related to Newfoundland. Who was the first pilot to fly across the Atlantic Ocean? If you ask that question, most people will instinctively say Charles Lindbergh, in the spirit of St. Louis, which of course is a flyable plane in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Charles Lindbergh is actually incorrect. Charles Lindbergh, his claim to fame is that he was the first pilot to fly solo across the Atlantic. But the first pilot overall, or first pair of
点いるかと思ったらいないっ
were
すな
Alcock and Brown, who were two
どっかにいるのかもしれないけど
British pilots. And they flew across the Atlantic from Newfoundland to Ireland in a modified British World War I bomber that had been stripped of all its military armament and converted to carry extra fuel. And that was the first non-stop flight from Newfoundland to Ireland by Alcock and Brown.
Maybe it's fun because Hex is
ダイヤモンドエアクラフトン62おおここも優雅な飛行機ですなぁ
Does it have afterburners?
Yeah, but it also has
Yahoo!
afterburners. There we go. Okay, bye.
It's like meeting a level 100 guy in a racing game or something. Where are you? Oh, you're...
Yeah, I'm actually not too sure about the cruising speeds. I'm currently doing 163. That might be a bit rich, right?
I think this. I've got a pair of Antonovs behind me now. An Antonov AN2. Oh, and it just disappeared. It got too close. But the Mega Colossus Antonov AN225 just below me as well.
CD is doing 140 indicated, so I'll
Currently 30 nautical miles away from our next waypoint, which is the Cape Bonavista Lighthouse, National Historic Site.
31.7 from you to user 03. I guess that's.
Oh, here we go. There's the Antonov 225 by 12 o'clock. Oh, and look, there's the AN2 sort of flying in formation with it. It almost looks like the AN2 could land on top of the Antonov 225.
Wait a minute, CD. I see the Alpha Tester livery on your plane.
Do you see which?
If memory serves me correctly, you were always envying me because I had it and you didn't.
I was, and let's just say Jane was able to give me a present.
Strings got pulled, people got poked.
That was nothing to do with me. That was all Jane, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah.
Were you in the alpha test?
No comment. That's it. If I was, it's covered by NDA, so I would not be able to say. as you know.
As yes, sure, yeah.
Well, you could say you were part of it.
Yeah. It's classified.
It's classified.
Anyways, on the subject of Jane, somebody may be wondering where Jane is today. Of course, last week she showed up in chat briefly. It was her birthday, and I said, you know, if Jane does make an appearance, everyone go nuts and wish Jane a happy birthday. I have a similar request. I don't expect Jane will show up today because she is taking a very well-earned and well-deserved vacation, and so she's currently off this week. But if Jane decides to make an appearance in chat and say hello, which she might do, here's my request. I want everyone to tell Jane to go back to enjoying her vacation and to stop working. And we got everything under control here, and that she should be enjoying her very well-deserved time off.
たくさんなんか積めそうな飛行機ですね。
But I legitimately am hoping that Jane does not show up today. As much as I enjoy her company, I do want her to enjoy her vacation.
Yeah, might be a bit remote also.
お、スピットファイヤー。あの人いつもスピットファイヤーで飛んでる人だ。
Hey, Danny. Welcome to you.
The new Peter Pan was filmed in Bonavista, Newfoundland, Newfoundland. Did you know the trivia? I didn't. Then again, I didn't know much.
巡航速度で130ノット来てるけど、全然130ノットより速いんだけど。
Well, why don't we do a test? Let's just make sure it's working properly.
Yeah. Do you sure? Sure? Yeah, you go first. Yeah.
Who, me?
Sure.
Or Tom?
I did it. Don't know if chat.
I didn't hear it.
I didn't hear it.
Oh.
You hear it
I do hear that.
Yeah, there it is. I hear it now.
びっくりしたなのと。
Can we try that again just to make sure? Sure.
配信してる人の声か。
Yeah, if you missed that, folks, that was a couple weeks ago. We had Jane do her best impression of a stallhorn. And if anyone is a real-life pilot and has heard a stallhorn in real life, it is absolutely uncanny how realistic Jane's impression of the stallhorn is.
Didn't hear that.
Wow, look at this flying surface image. We got a Dark Star, I got a DC-3, it's extra, a couple of youngsters.
オスプレイがいるな。ジョンジェットっていうのも買いたいんだけどな。
What else do we have here? Beechcraft Baron, Diamond DA40.
A 点買っちまったい。
I just love seeing all the different planes that people choose to fly. Because everyone has their own individual preferences.
C3 is such a good plane, but such a handful. To fly in the stream. I see you, Tom.
You do?
Finally.
Got up.
Yeah, you're in front of me.
Okay.
I'll speed up so that we overshoot each other again. We'll keep it
Currently,
going.
20
It's not one stall horn, it's
お、
the
またいる。
It's one stall horn to rule them all.
Definitive edition.
みんな大好
Is
き。
there a landmark at the next waypoint? Yes,
GBU
there is a
9.
POI at the next waypoint, the Bonavista Lighthouse, which is a National Historic Site in Newfoundland.
お、
No touch and go?
凍った上、海の上を。
I mean, if
飛んでおり
anyone
ま
wants
す
to
よ。
try to land in the lighthouse, be my guest. I don't think you will be successful.
I've done that at the helicopter stream. Now it's a bit tricky.
1912。
Have you in sight? Let's check out your point of
Or
view.
it's someone else.
この前買った飛行機
Yeah, I
I
kind
mean,
of
Edorin
feel...
in the Pelican could probably land on top of the lighthouse.
Exactly.
3発の昔買った飛行機かな昔買ったやつだなこれは多分
By the way, folks, I went to see John Wick 4 last night. I will give you my 1 second spoiler-free review.
おーいたまた
Everything you want in a John Wick movie. If
こ
you
の
like
巨
the
大
previous ones, you will like this one.
巨大
If
輸
you
送
didn't like
機
the previous ones, don't bother.
Certainly not like this one.
あれこれさっきまで FA18 乗ってた人じゃない
Actually, we started watching all the
Nice
Star
to
Wars
meet you,
movies
Lord.
in the chronological order.
Nice.
Machete
Including the series now?
It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Which is weird because if you look at it in the chronological order,
これこの
one
大きい飛行機大好き
major twists in movie 4
Oh.
is already well known. So, yeah.
Which is that? It's from episode 5.
Yeah, no, 4.
No, that's from 5.
No, 4.
From 5!
5. Anyway, if you look at the...
Elkin
if you look
David
at-
agrees with me. Empire
It's
Strikes
fine.
Back
Yeah,
is episode
yeah,
5.
yeah, true. But anyway, but that's one of the biggest spoiler or twists, right,
Yeah.
in that story. But if you look 1, 2, 3, it's already...
So, have you heard of Machete Order for the Star Wars movies?
Which is the order in which they were...
So, Machete Order is a combination, it's a hybrid. And if there's someone new who has never seen any of the Star Wars movies, it's actually the best way to watch them so that none of the major twists or plot points are spoiled.
Right.
By the way, I'm going to spoil Star Wars. for
本
anyone who,
当に見栄えがするというか迫力があるのこの飛行機は
So your statute of limitations on this is over. I will freely discuss spoilers. So if there is a friend of yours who's never seen Star Wars before,
映るだけに映るだけで絵になる
yes, that would also work. So start with episode 4, A New Hope,
Right, yes, thank you.
Then
We
Empire
already saw
Strikes
1 and
Back.
2, but yeah, continue.
then Empire Strikes Back,
Yes, 4, 5.
right? And so then you have the big reveal where Darth Vader says that he's Luke's father, but you don't know if
Right.
it's true or not yet. Like, he could be lying, he could be trying to...
Right. And then you do 1, 2, 3.
No.
Oh,
Then you do 2 and 3.
yes.
You skip 1 altogether because A,
Yeah.
it's terrible, and B, there's actually nothing relevant or important that happens in episode 1.
There, yes.
So, and then after episode 3, so it's basically you do an extended flashback.
インターナショナル
watch
カーゴ
episodes
ト
4
ラ
and
ン
5,
スポー
and
タ
then
ー
you do a two movie
アントの
flashback of
225
episodes 2 and 3, and then you do
下は読め
episode
ねえな
6, which is
そ
the
れウ
natural
クライナの飛行機だよってこと
Yeah,
かな
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and you skip 1 over, and that is actually the best way.
あの DH4 がむちゃくちゃな
Too bad we already started. But I'll keep it in
これ
mind.
が持ち上がれへんっていうかなこ
We
の
also have to include all the series.
ダークスターのいるところ変
Oh yeah,
態
we
長あり
also are parallel. We're watching Mandalorian, which why times?
Mandalorian should only watch after.
ダークスター
No.
Andres,
Everyone can
you're
be good.
currently 8 miles away
あの人も
from the
他の飛行機
Bonavista
も乗ってる
Lighthouse,
人多い
which is sort of on the northern
カナ
tip
ダ
of Newfoundland.
カナダの
Yes,
飛行機なんだな
we
もとも
are
と多
in,
分
Newfoundland. Now here's the question, and I was not going to be on this, but I've heard this go both ways. I themselves Newfies, and or Noofs for short. That's how they describe themselves.
編隊長が
But
よ
I've
うやく
also
入った
heard
BF108
some people consider Newfie to be an
で
offensive
なんか
term.
昨日
So
売っ
do
て
we
た
have
飛
anyone
行
from
機だな
Newfoundland in the chat today? Shed some light on
買っ
that.
てないけど
Is Newfie an acceptable way to refer to people from Newfoundland, or should we shy away from using that term? Because again, I have heard it both ways. Red Baron says Newfie.
この辺がいつでもこの公式集会で密度が高いとこですよ。大隊長の周り。
I reckon it's indeed the
I would say so. So something else about the history of Newfoundland. We talked about today, March 31st, being the date that Newfoundland was admitted into Canada as the 10th province, and then of course subsequently renamed Newfoundland to Labrador in 2001.
銀ピカの
July 1st is Canada Day, so the national holiday for Canada. However, in Newfoundland, for many people, July 1st is a day
飛
of
行機も
mourning.
本当にいい
Let me tell you
ね
why that is. It has nothing to do with Confederation or being part of Canada. It's completely unrelated to that. It goes back to World War I. So in those days, a lot of military units were assembled from people all from the same region or same area, same city. So a couple famous Canadian military units. For example, there's the Royal Regina Rifles, the Calgary Highlanders.
隊長はダイヤモンドエアクラフトの40か
Basically built or assembled from recruits from those areas, so like Regina or Calgary, for example.
ほら変なか緑が見える
Newfoundland regiment. And something like 10% of Newfoundland's population during the First World War served in this unit. And as we
ああ
all
また
know,
今日もこの
when
飛行機いる
when,
ハクリ
you know, the trench warfare,
これも
Western
迫
Front,
力だの
troops would go over the top.
おお
The casualty rate was very high. So in 1916, July 1st, 1916,
じゃあエンジン8個
in
か
the
ハ
Somme
クリ
offensive
ーズ
of
は
the First World War, the Royal Newfoundland Regiment supported over the top and suffered over 9. Only 10% of the troops that were sent on the offensive that morning made it back for the morning roll call the next day. And as you can imagine, for a relatively small island with a very large population, this was an absolutely decimated their population of young people. And so for many years afterwards, and you know, even maybe to this day, July 1st in Newfoundland is actually
ランドマークの名前はわからないが何かちょっと奇抜なカラーリングの建物でございました。
Inquest says Newfoundland band Great Big Sea even has a song about it, which is interesting because NL Fly-by-CA says Alan Doyle, who is the lead singer and songwriter of Great Big Sea, says he hates the term Newfie. So interesting.
I think we're at the...
Yes. I'm close there.
Right, I can see
There's an actual lighthouse.
oh, there's an extra one. Oh, wait. Oh, that one building. Oh, right. It's a lot smaller than I thought.
And there's a pelican.
And of course there's a pelican. It's through the right. Through the end.
Alan Doyle sang Goodbye. Some of you may know Alan Doyle without even realizing it. If you saw the Ridley Scott movie starring Russell Crowe, Robin Hood, from about 10 years ago, Alan Doyle actually appeared as an actor in that movie. I think he was Alan Adale was the character he played, who became very good friends with Robin Hood in the film. And subsequently, Russell Crowe and Alan Doyle became very good friends in real life. They bonded. Some of you may not know this. The actor Russell Crowe is actually a musician, and he actually tried to make a go of it as a professional musician before he became an actor. And so the two of them on the sets of Ridley Scott's Robin Hood actually bonded over their music playing abilities, and then they became very good friends.
DC3 をこの前
the lighthouse is actually
海面
animated.
飛行
That's
し
cool.
て人かな
I didn't know it did that.
カラーリングが一緒だけど
BTG Game says, "Hey, all Newfoundlander here. Fish and chips for supper tonight." Very good. Now, of course, as we mentioned, anyone who's just joining us late, I myself have already been screeched in over 2 decades ago, so I am an honorary Newfoundlander. But for anyone else out there, if you want to become an honorary Newfoundlander yourself, the way to do it is go pick up a bottle of Newfie Screech, brand of dark Jamaican rum, and get a codfish, do a shot of Screech, kiss the codfish on the lips, and then you yourself will also become an honorary Newfoundlander.
Is the codfish living? Is it a living codfish or a dead codfish?
No, you get the dead codfish.
すげえ大型機ってやっぱり
Right.
迫力だ
So
の
we got this back.
No.
That's too bad.
危ないぞぶつかるぞギリギリだな
BTG Game says they're actually changing the recipe for
ギリギリを生きとる
supply issues. Well, that's the end of an era. All right, well, our next waypoint, and I'm 50 miles out, but we'll talk about this in a minute. Our next waypoint is Gander. So as we talked about earlier in the stream, Newfoundland, due to its geographic location, was a very important part of aviation history because it was sort of the closest point between North America and Europe. So for many transatlantic flights, they would depart from Newfoundland as the last fuel stop, or if they were coming from Europe, this would be their first stop, where they would make it across the Atlantic, stop in Newfoundland and refuel. Gander itself is a town of about 10,000 residents. But over the years, the U.S. military has had an air base in Gander and Stephenville as well, another town in Newfoundland.
同じ飛行機
Very
が
long runways built here. During the Second World War, a lot of bombers that were assembled in the United States, like B-17s and B-24s, would be built in factories in the United States and then would make their way to Gander and Stephenville and then make their way across the Atlantic to England. These airports still exist to this day, even though they're not really used for
よ
military
し
purposes
この
anymore.
同型機につく
But
か
the fact that Gander has a very
隊
long
長として
10,000 plus foot runway became very important on one of the darkest days in recent history, September 11th, 2001. Those of you may remember that. If you're certainly if you were old enough, I remember exactly where I was, what I was doing when I heard the news of
隊長ぶつかりますよそんなことしてると
And one of the things you may recall, in light of those terrorist attacks, the FAA
次々と危険が襲いかかってくる ああギリだったなかギリだったなセーフということにしておくかおお一一機だけ見てると他の飛行機がやべえよ
And so, you had all these planes that were coming en route to North America from, coming to American or Canadian destinations.
Right.
They had passed the point of no return. They no longer had enough fuel to turn around and go back to Europe. So they had to come to this side of the Atlantic, but they already had shut down all American airspace. So where could they go?
こんなとこにはまったなんか挟まっちゃった大型トラックに挟まれた時と同じ感じやな
And the government of Canada allowed all these to land at Canadian airports, but not any Canadian airport, because again, this is an ongoing security incident occurring at the time. They didn't want major Canadian airports like Toronto Pearson, Montreal Dorval, subsequently renamed Montreal Pierre Trudeau airports, Ottawa Cartier, any of the major airports in Eastern Canada. They thought they could potentially, because they're major population centers, they could potentially be targets themselves for terrorist attacks. And so the Canadian authorities redirected all of these transatlantic flights
全然130ノットより速いけども巡航速度
that nonetheless had runways long enough to accommodate wide-body commercial jetliners. 38 of those planes ended up in Gander, Newfoundland.
How many
Again,
parts
Gander has
did
a
they have?
population of roughly 10,000 people. The crew and passengers on board those 38 flights numbered in total about 7,000 people. There were not 7,000 hotel rooms in Gander. So what happened? Again, I mentioned earlier how welcoming and friendly and open the people in Newfoundland were, and they really showed their colors. And I would say for a lot of Newfoundlanders, September 11th was their finest hour. The town of Gander immediately sprung to action. All the people, the mayor, school teachers, principals, local police and fire departments, emergency services, you name it, and just everyday common people like you and me that happen to be in Gander, they immediately sprung to action and says, what can we do? 7,000 people, that overnight, literally overnight, the population of their town grew by 70%. It became a logistical nightmare. As Brad Barron says, I doubt there's 7,000 hotel spaces in all of Newfoundland. Yeah, let alone the small town of Gander. So what happened? Everyday people went to the airport with their cars and just picked up passengers, complete strangers, and brought them here. They put them on a couch, they put them in a spare bedroom, they gave them a hot shower, a warm meal, and a TV they could watch so they could see what was happening. You know, everyone, of course, was glued to their television sets watching the news during this, especially people, you know, who were stranded in a strange destination that they were not expecting to arrive at when they got on board the flight that day. And this is also in the days sort of before everyone had a mobile phone. So a lot of people were still kind of dependent on landline phones. And of course, long distance charges were quite expensive then. But it didn't matter. The people of Gander, Newfoundland, they gave a phone call. They gave their phones also to the stranded passengers, the people they knew as the term we mentioned earlier, the come from a ways, the outsiders, that's the affectionate term they have for outsiders in Newfoundland. They gave the come from a ways a phone call, or access to their phones, so they could call their loved ones and they could talk to their family and let them know they're okay, let them know they're being taken care of. And for over a week, they were stranded.
隊長、今日もありがとうございます。
Airspace was opened again, and they were able to get on to their final destination and get home. You know, it's a very dark day in history overall, a very terrible tragedy that happened that day. But in the darkness, there was some light. I think the story of Operation Yellow Ribbon, not just in Gander, but also in Halifax, Moncton, St. John's, Vancouver, and a few other places around Canada that were able to take in all these U.S.-bound aircraft that were no longer able to fly. I think it's a great example of international cooperation and just everyday people of the world really rising up and doing something good at a time when there's a lot of bad and evil happening. And then some of you may know, I mentioned again the term come from away. That actually lent itself, that phrase, to the title of a Tony Award-winning Broadway musical that was specifically about this. I think it premiered about 7 or 8 years ago on Broadway. Won one of the Tony Awards that year for Best Broadway Performances. And it's specifically about the events of September 11th in the town of Gander. And the characters in that film are both, you know, like the mayor and various different townspeople in Gander, a firefighter, for example, and then various people who opened up their homes and their hearts to the people who were stranded in the airliners, as well as the pilots and air crews of the planes themselves and the stranded passengers, including, and they used a lot of the real names too. This is relatively uncommon in theater productions. You don't see this very often. Usually they change the names, but they actually kept one of them, and that was Beverly Bass. Beverly Bass was an American Airlines captain. She was the third woman ever to fly for American Airlines.
どうしてもでっかいな、これ。どうしてもでっかいって日本語だけど。うわ、ぶつかるぶつかる。まあいいか。
And she was flying when the transatlantic flights on September 11th, 2001. She was
自分
stranded
の
in
飛行機が
Gander.
邪魔でよく見えねえや。
And
う
subsequently,
わー、ぶつかった。ごめんなさい。
in the musical based on this story.
これは申し訳ないことをしたわ。
That musical. And a postscript to this, when the musical became a big hit,
うわ、またぶつかっちゃった。
she
これは
actually
申し訳ないことをした。
and she
この
gave
飛行機ちょっ
her
と自分のあれが邪魔だ。
flight uniform and wings that she
自
was
分が邪魔
wearing
な。
on September 11th.
イーグルに比べると視力があるから
That was playing her character
よく見えない。
performance. And I think that's a really cool postscript to that story.
if
Like
you
I
will-
just passed you guys.
Yeah. I
Slow down again.
I'm still in front of you.
ニュニュニュニュニ
There's
ュ
quite a few big planes here.
羽が突き出てくる。
25.
うー。
4,
あ、オスプレイだ。
322 Osprey.
A 点買ったのにいないじゃん。どういうこと？ちょっとこのスピードでは飛べないのかな、A 点。絶対いると思ったのによ。
Yes, me too. Even though I was only 5 in 2001, but I still remember.
I've heard now from airline pilots who were flying professionally.
エアブレーキが
That's
下
the
に
thing
ついて
they
る。
missed the most. They loved it when kids come up
ファイヤ
and
ー。
give them guided tours and flight.
Me too.
Yeah.
Still, actually.
Well, and now even more with all the knowledge with the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
オスプレイがおったけどどこ行った？
Hey, Joey, nice to see you. Joey
Oh,
says
ta-
wishing you all a pleasant cruise and happy landings.
Me too.
Currently 30 miles out from Gander at the moment.
It's a beautiful tour.
これ近くにおるとローターだかプロペラだかなんかどっちかよくわからんけど、あれに吹き飛ばされそうだなこの飛行機。
So my best airline captain story. I was flying commercial. I was 16 years old. I was on a commercial flight with my family, going on a family trip. Sitting next to my dad. We're both kind of aviation fans. This was slightly before I earned my pilot's license. It was actually not that summer, but 4 months
う
after
わ
that.
ローターに巻き込まれる。
Got my pilot's license.
ロー
But,
ターに
you
巻
know,
き
still
込まれ
super
る。
into aviation as my father was as well. So
あ、もうそんな時間？
Of course, the chief flight attendants
わかりまし
gets
た。
on the PA system to do the sort of boarding announcement, on behalf of the airline. Like,
これが元に戻っちゃうのかな。よいしょと。
They would need money for a manual private instructor. Yes.
a pair of DC-3s and a pair of Antonov 225.
寒そうやの。この平たいとかみんな海かね、この凍ってるのは。まあ、このマイクロソフトフライトシミュレーター、 海が凍ってるかどうか結構適当ですけどね。日本でも、冬の日本でも結構北行くとすぐ凍っちゃいますからね。
And we do this every Friday, but always a different destination. We like to explore our entire planets.
しかし、本当方向、なんて横のロールの横の安定性のない飛行機じゃ。水
We'll grab a. What do they use there for?
B78.
Flight planes.
Twin Otters.
With others.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, we'll do that.
Or maybe the ATR.
Or the ATR. So much cool stuff going on.
Halfway to the year.
ああ、水うめえ。
So much money to spend.
Surly Div says, I've only been flying Microsoft Flight Sim for a week and joined in Factual Gull's fly-in last week in Cuba. So this is my second ever fly-in. Well, Factual Gull actually appears as a guest on this channel every now and then. She was last on here about a month ago.
Yeah, and I think that's the highest frequency.
ビッグファイヤ
Well, yeah, she,
ー。大英帝
you
国
must
と
have a
守護神で
tolerance
も
of
見
death.
る
Oh,
か。
there she is. Speak of the devil, there is Factual Gull. And here we go. She's setting up a dad joke. Factual Gull says, hey there, do you know what James Bond is called in Newfoundland?
No, factual, I don't. But
Neither do you
fair.
have your Badum.
Yes. Well, factual. What do you call a James Bond in Newfoundland?
Double O's. Oh, that's a deep cut. That is a Canadian joke if I've ever heard one. 00730. Wow. Okay. Every Canadian in chat gets the punchline. I'm guessing everyone who's not Canadian has no idea why that's funny. So I will now explain it.
Is it because of the time zone?
It's always a great joke when you have to explain the punchline. So yes, Canada has 6 different time zones: Newfoundland, Atlantic, Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. Like most time zones, they're all offset by an hour. So, for example, where I live in the Pacific time zone, we're 1 hour off from the Mountain time zone, 2 hours off from Central, 3 hours off from Eastern, etc. Newfoundland time is only 1/2 hour different from Atlantic time. But when there's like TV broadcasts being aired, instead of starting on the hour in Newfoundland, they start on the half hour. So every Canadian, if you ever watched TV, you'll always hear, tune in for, CBC News, 8 o'clock Eastern, 8:30. And so like everything in Newfoundland always starts half an hour later. And so hence the joke, James Bond's name in Newfoundland is 00730.
I guess so. Thank you for the explanation, but I still found it to be that joke.
Also, because of that, Newfoundland is the earliest, most easterly time zone in North America. So when new movies open, the very first time they're shown, arguably outside of their Hollywood premiere, but the very first time they're shown publicly to a general audience in the world is in Newfoundland.
It's a bit like the Kiribati of the Americas.
Yeah, actually it is. Good analogy. Australia does, I think it's Nepal, they have a time zone offset of 45 minutes.
Yes, I know there's one time zone in the world that is... I know a few that are half an hour, and I think one is indeed 45 minutes. Because people here are every time the clock changes to DST and back and forth, there's always that discussion, right? Because people generally hate switching times. So they always say, no, just leave it on winter time.
これあの人だ。
And then people say, well, we'll just do a half an hour and be done with it. How hard can it be?
フレンドの人ですよ。
Yes. Carl says France has 12 time zones. Yes, correct. This is actually one of my favorite trivia questions. What country has the maximum number of time zones? And it's definitely not one you would think. I think most people, when they hear that, they would probably guess a really large country like Russia or Canada that has, many time zones spread across a large geographic area. But the correct answer to the country with the most time zones is actually France.
I would have guessed Britain, but it's France because of the overseas territories. I guess.
Correct.
And there's a saying that they don't have a sunset or sunrise.
It's always 4 o'clock somewhere.
I am about 6 minutes away from the game.
Check this out. Look at the.
これも買ったやつですね。
We got some retro
アントノフの
airliners, all
2だったか
information
3だったか。
a couple Junkers and a couple DC-3s, all in formation. That's pretty cool. And then a spruce goose. Look at that.
あ、ワイヤーが貼ってある。
Information which you're little.
やっぱり服用機でちょっと古いやつなんだな。
Factual Girl's Happy Cub. Keep up. She'll be flying with us now.
不要機のプラモデルで作ったことないですけど、本見るとこのワイヤーの貼り方がいろいろあるんですよ。あるんですよ。ちょっと作ったことないけど、本にはたくさんなんかいろんな貼り方が載ってます。
Spruce goose. I guess what's good for the gander.
Don't you have
Factual what?
something to do? Don't you have to work or something?
I mean, Peter, you also had a good one.
Which one? Oh, with the pizza joke.
Yeah.
Was that it?
Yeah.
What?
Want to hear a good pizza joke?
Yeah, factual. Do you want to hear a good pizza joke? Nah.
もうちょっとここら辺に来ると密集地帯、危険がいっぱい。
Luke Herman says, question, if all this many planes would fly in a flock like this, could they get in each other's airflow in trouble? Yes, it's called wake turbulence. It's something that all pilots learn to avoid, especially behind large planes like the AM225, which Elkin David says there in chat. The larger the plane, the more lift it generates from its wings, the more wake turbulence it causes. definitely
Weak
don't want to be
turbulence.
flying or taking off or landing behind
タ
a
ブ
very
ランスないからね、このゲーム。
I saw a video this week. Two guys landing somewhere in Poland, fog, and when it passed, there was a whole wall of just clear sky where there was no fog.
It's called like that because it
おお、
keeps
来
the
た
pilot
来た来た
awake,
来た。
right?
この人が来たってことはどっかに。
Right.
大隊長でも真っ白な飛行機だったような気がするけど、これが大隊長かね。
Alright, I've got Gander in sight. Disable my autopilot for
ダイヤモンドエアクロフトっぽい
currently
けど。
6.5 miles out. Speed or Tom, how close are you?
5 miles out, but it's
5.4.
sure.
Pandas, is there any plans to visit
Oh, there it
Asia?
is.
Yeah, we go to Asia relatively frequently, actually. We did Lunar New Year.
おお、
Too long ago to Malaysia and Singapore.
分けらないのに
Japan
は
a few times.
分けらないのは近づいた時はいいけど、本当にぶつかった時に悲しい絵になってしまいますな。
Where else have we been? I know we've been to Asia quite a few times.
Hong Kong a few times.
Yeah, Hong Kong, that's right. Macau.
Shenzhen, Macau.
四川、マ
Oh,
カオ。
Shanghai. We did a beautiful
Oh, yeah.
flight, Lunar New Year 2022 for Year of the Tiger to Shanghai. Oh, yeah, Indonesia. Yeah, we've been to Borneo. We did a landing at Bugalaga before. Yeah, we mix it up. We try to go to every continent, every region.
Oh,
We
kita,
just
kita,
find
kita, kita.
ourselves- I know today we're in North America. Last week we were in
暴走族が来た。
Western Europe, but we don't always try to combine ourselves to North America and Europe. We do try to mix it up when we're here. Been to South America several times. We've been to Africa. Not too long ago, we did a flight along the Suez Canal in Egypt.
ラグが怖い。
Last week
Ah,
was
タッチ
two
ン
weeks
グ
ago
があ
was
る
St.
な、
Patrick's
こ
Day
こ
in。Ireland. Last week was Greece.
ラ
for
グ
Greek
が
Independence Day.
怖い。
But yeah, we always try to theme our fly-in Fridays after historical events, anniversaries, or holidays that take place in various
タ
international
ッチン
destinations.
グ。
We always try to make them relevant to something that's happening in the world.
この
So
飛行機
today's
危
flight
ないから
is
ね。
the anniversary of Newfoundland, now named Newfoundland and Labrador, becoming the 10th province of Canada. We thought we would do a flight into Newfoundland today. And here I am on medium final to do a touch and go at Gander.
I think Peter is gonna be first, then immediately me.
Okay. Switch over to Peter.
Yeah.
CD, what is your graphics card? Do you recommend an RTX 3050 for good enough at Flight Sim 2020 at 1080p high? Yeah, so I
前
have
も
a 3080
フラップで急
Ti,
減速した時
and I
につい
play at
ていけないんだよ
1440
ね。
Ultra. And as you can see from my stream, it runs Flight Sim great, looks great, it's really smooth frame rates. I would say, I haven't tried a 3050 myself, but I would say for
ついてい
1080p
けない
high,
と
I
か追い
would say
越しちゃうんよね。
Yeah, I
うわー、でかいのがいきなり現れてきた。おーい、大丈夫か。あ、ちょっと待って。ぶつからない設定に昨日の夜したと思ったけど、したっけな。全然覚えがねえや。
I got a whole bunch of planes in front of me.
下手すると今日は死ぬかもしれんな。
Hit the Jane Stallhorn button.
ラン
as
デ
I
ィ
flare.
ー。
There we go. Thank you.
ワオン。
Oh, I greased that one. It was the stall horn from Jane. That was the key there. Wow, that was a nice smooth touchdown. Right on the center line too. All right, rotates. Positive rates.
How are you doing, Tom?
Yep, already airborne.
Still 1500 CD, or are we coming?
I think 1500 is probably fine.
Yeah, I see some mountains in the distance. I'm not sure whether we.
It's fine.
It's okay.
Terrain radar seems to have.
I already had one CFIT today, so that was hardly a CFIT though. Spun out of control.
Next up we have the
spin recovery, or did they not teach you that?
I didn't learn spin recovery. I learned spin avoidance. So
Yeah.
I learned to see the signs of an initiating spin and what's it called? Avoid it. Yeah. So correct it.
ガンダー国際っていうと
But
ころ今置いた
because
の
I because I knew it wasn't the syllabus before, I asked my CI to do it once. So we went up once to like I believe 5,000 feet.
Yeah.
And then we initiated one spin, so we actually flipped over. Then I could kick myself out of it, which was pretty hefty. It was a pretty hefty experience to actually be inverted and feel the wing actually fall on your plane. And I'm really glad I did that once because then you know the feeling, you know what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Having said that, I don't
この飛行機もなかなかいいですね
experience it again. Or on purpose it's fine, but not in the
Yeah.
wild.
So when I learned how to fly in the 90s, at least in Canada, spin entry and spin recovery was actually part of the private pilot curriculum. And so I actually did spin training. And being a dumb teenager that I was, as a licensed solo pilot, I would actually go spin the plane for fun afterwards. Obviously, follow all the standard safety precautions. We have checklists that you would follow before you
Oh,
practice
don't know.
spins. But I would do that just because I thought it was fun.
フラッペロン
The
か
feeling is cool if you do it
Yeah.
on purpose.
So I flew in a Piper Tomahawk
なんかしか
PA-38.
もスプリッ
And
テ
when
ッ
this
ド
plane was designed in the
固定でこういう
1970s,
形の
Piper
翼なのか
company actually did a focus group
まあ
test
まあ
on
あ
a
んなこ
lot
とは
of
ないな可動域
CFIs
だろうけ
and said, what are your characteristics for a perfect new pilot student trainer? And one of the things that came back is the CFI says, we want a plane. This again, it's a different world back then. This is explain why. We want a plane that is actually easy to spin, so that we can teach students spin entry and spin
ど
recovery.
かっこいい
So
飛
Cessna
行機だな
172,
これ
for
も
example, is actually very hard to spin. It's hard to get it to spin,
まあ
and then when you
ク
are
ラシ
in a
ック
spin,
ですけ
you
ど
can
ね
basically take your hands off the controls. It will recover by
See.
itself.
Yeah. I mean, kicking the rudder opposite does help,
Yeah.
but it practically doesn't want to spin. By the way, we do.
I'm gonna play chicken for now. I'll decide to climb later.
So,
Okay. Your view.
But yeah, so the Piper Tomahawk, when it was designed in the 70s, that was one of the characteristics that CFIs wanted in a trainer in those days was build us a plane that is actually easy to spin, so our students can learn how to do that.
Sounds like a loophole.
Yeah.
Next legend says C172 is great. Well, I mean, great is a word. Great for what? It's great for learning to fly. It's great for getting around relatively cheaply. I wouldn't say
It's great in the sense that almost every flying club has one for rent, so if you're checked out on
Ah, Mizume.
you'll always have a place that you can fly.
and you can take three of your friends with you, but
Yeah. It says, and of all the planes out there, it's one of them.
A 点はどこにおるの昨日絶対おると思って買ったのに
I mean most of the small GA 4-person single engine seaters are all fine planes like the Piper, the Cessna, the DA400 stuff like that. It's all
Now, having flown both, I definitely prefer
now.
Two.
Low wing is 40er
何
and the high wing is easier if you.
yeah. Better visibility, I find, in a low wing, especially when you're turning onto base. And
On
flying.
approach, yeah, but
Yeah.
just for sightseeing, the high wing gives a bit more view downstairs. But Yeah, that's more personal.
Yeah, that's a personal preference thing, but for me, having flown both in real life, I definitely prefer low wing.
I like the feeling more of sitting on top of the wing instead of hanging under it. Yeah, but luckily they have sunglasses for that. But I agree, if it's a hot day, then you're more protected in the high wing. It's more shaded, while the low wing can be a bit of when it's a bit of an open cockpit. It feels like a steam oven.
By the way, we had a comment a few minutes back. Elkin David says, one of the things I like about the community flights is that it takes place at locations I normally would not think of flying in the sim, discovering new places. Yeah, I mean that's something else we do very much on purpose. We don't go like all the standard places.
I normally
ちょっ
don't
と背面飛行もしておくか、やはり。
It's always a surprise what CD comes up with after taking my job.
Poor Peter.
We didn't really talk about food yet, did we?
でも今日ぶつかるかもしれな
Well,
い
we。talked about cost.
ちゃんと死んでもいい設定にしたかどうか全然覚えがないな。
I mean, Newfoundland cuisine is very much.
死んでもいいっておかしいな。ぶつかっても死なない設定にしたかどうか全然覚えがね
And very seafood based.
SR22 これビジョンジェットって買いたいなと思ってる飛行機の同じメーカーじゃないかなと思うんですけど。
So, we had a Newfoundlander in the chat earlier that mentioned fish and chips for supper tonight. Yeah, fish and chips would be
じゃあ
classic.
ちょっとこの飛行機の下からいたずらをしてみますか。
CD comes up with these locations. Yes, I do all the flight planning for Community Flying Friday. So I'll actually tell you my process.
意外と早いな、あの飛
You're
行
gonna learn how
機。
the sausage is made here. So every week I look up what date it is on that Friday. So for example, today is March 31st. Then I go to Wikipedia and I look up that date on Wikipedia, and it'll tell me any holidays and observances that take place around the world. And if there's a good one, for example, last week. was
Oh,
Greek
もしかして
Independence Day,
タッチング
so we
かな。
Greece. The week before was St. Patrick's Day, so we did a flight in Ireland. There's different things like that. Lunar New Year, of course, we did a flight in Asia for that. So we try to commemorate different holidays that are taking place in different countries, and we'll fly there. For that
TBA
reason.
の前ない
If there's not a good holiday
12
that happens to align with Community Flying Friday, then I'll look at sort of historical events that took place around that. And so today, March 31st, under the historical events section on Wikipedia, was Newfoundland joining Canada as its 10th province. And I thought, oh, that sounds cool. We can make a flight out of that. We haven't flown in Newfoundland before on Community Flying Friday, so let's do that this week.
あの人も
So that's the process. That's
あれ
how
の
it's
一
done.
人
And
じゃ
then
ないか
once I
な。
pick a location, I then go
あれ
to
っ
the world
て
map and Flight Simulator and look for
開
some
催者の
POIs or other interesting places to fly and make the flight plan that way. And that's my process.
Sounds easy enough.
Yeah. What's the difference between a handcrafted airport and a simple one? Yeah, so an autogen airport will use aerial and satellite imagery and then the Black Shark AI to take that aerial imagery and convert it into buildings like terminal buildings, hangars, various different facilities around an airport. And it generally looks okay, like it looks approximately what it would look like in real life, but not exactly 100% because it is machine generated, it's autogen, so it's never going to look as good as if you had a professional 3D digital artist who went in and created the scenery. And so that's what the handcrafted airports are. Is you have a 3D artist using tools like Blender or 3D Studios Max or other developer tools. Will go in, take photographs, video, other reference materials of the actual real world location, and then to the best of their ability recreate that in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And so the handcrafted airports and other handcrafted scenery like POIs from the world updates will typically look a little bit better than the autogen stuff. But I do have to say the autogen for what it is actually quite good. And I would say it's still miles ahead of any other flight simulator that's ever come before this one.
Don't forget we have over 40 6,000 airports now, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, and only a small percentage of that is doable as a handcrafted airport, because one can't do 44,000 airports by hand.
Yeah.
So as CD says, yeah, the AI is used to generate landing strips and buildings. The buildings are either from a aerial image or from a library of default hangars, and along with some fixie pads, parking spaces. That's how they can generate that.
Yeah.
動画
And
滝がいる。
Future community members might be able to, or will be able to change default airports.
Yes, this month the beta should launch for that system called the World Hub.
Be curious to learn more about the World Hub. It was one of our earlier developer live streams. We talked about that, what the goals are, and how users in the community, people just like you, the people watching this stream right now, can make contributions and improve the accuracy of the scenery in Microsoft Flight Simulator.
So if you come across some anomaly, you can actually check out that airport and correct it and upload it, and then it will be available for our members in a future update.
GD's Movie Host says, I use the Friday Flights as an excuse to find new airports and or planes for purchase. This is the first time it's been somewhere I've flown. So here's my confession as a
あ、
Canadian.
タッチン号じゃないのか。
Newfoundland and Labrador is one of only 2 provinces that I have not been to. I visited 8 provinces and 1 out of 3 territories. I've never been to Newfoundland, I've never been to Manitoba, I've never been to Nunavut or the Northwest Territories. I've been to the other 8 provinces, and I've been to... Gotta check those boxes one of these days. Of course, growing up in Eastern Canada, in the Maritimes, many people had a lot of movie friends, particularly when I was in university. A lot of people from the mainland and studied
なん
there.
ていうのかな。鳥も取ってないのが
But
いい
you've
かな。
never been to Newfoundland.
よく考えたら。
I have not.
鳥も全然取らなくてもいいから全然取ってね
At university on the mainland, a lot of my movie friends, they did a straight in ceremony
Right.
one night. So a lot of us from the mainland, they initiated us in very Newfoundland.
Right.
上昇してっちゃう。
I see some more red on the map. That's fine, right?
It's fine.
I'm 2.7 miles from another POI.
ブリッジ、なんかブリッジがあるからくぐらんといかん。くぐりますぜ、ブリッジがある以上。くぐるか渡るか。渡るのは難しいからな。
The easiest way to get to Newfoundland from mainland Canada is, of course, by air travel. Flights into, Corner Brook, Stephenville, Gander, St. John's. But there's also a ferry that runs between Newfoundland
Ita.
and Sydney, Nova Scotia. And so it's a car ferry. So if you're driving, you can actually take your car across the ferry from mainland Canada to Newfoundland. Oh, there's Peter's got the bridge in sight.
ブリッジに突撃していく飛行機が何機か。トムキャット発見。
Looks like some people are attempting to
結
fly
構低
underneath
い
the
ぞ、こ
bridge.
の橋。
Yeah, that doesn't seem to fly.
Doesn't seem like
結
it's,
構低かったな
it's
ぁ。
always,
なかなか
hit or
難しかった
miss
ぜ。
whether, a bridge in flight sim will allow you to fly underneath it. Oh, actually, it looks like you can. People fling it off.
No, public service now. No, don't fly on the bridge. No.
ランドマークでございました。
Kellen, not in my case. I mean, I don't think that
なんか
anyone
読
will
み込
stop
み
you, but
読み
it's not
込
a
みラグ
requirement.
が太陽のなんか新型機がおるか新型機はおらん 街があるのかなうわごめんなさいだ全然見えてなかった キャート。あれ、さっき、この人さっきまであれに乗ってなかったか。
Look, we've got 5 people are all going to try to fly underneath the bridge here. Watch this.
They will all.
Yeah, F's in the chat for Triton and Bahamas land. Who have crashed into the bridge, trying to fly underneath it.
あれ、あれいなくなった。超気が抜ける。ほわほわほわほわ。閉まってないから違う飛行機が見えてんのかもね。
Captain Arash is here. Welcome in, Captain Arash. We're kind of in your part of the country.
人気の TBM9。
New Brunswick, which is not too far away from Newfoundland on the east coast of Canada. Captain Arash also a Twitch streamer.
点はおらんかよ、点は。
Microsoft Flight Sim in a Cessna 122.
プリントってないもんで、どんどこ機種
And
が。
as a personal challenge, he is not using GPS. He's only using old school. Really, the only radio navigation he's using is VOR.
ほわほわほわ
Interesting challenge to
ほ
fly
わ。
around the world using VFR navigation plus VOR or radio navigation.
I mean, that's the real radio.
すげえな、大型機。
Captain Rush has also never been to Newfoundland. Yeah, we were actually just talking about that. It's one of only 2 provinces that I personally never visited. Newfoundland and Labrador and Manitoba. Is there a mod to add back all the old VORs and shut them? That's a good question. I imagine someone has made that mod somewhere. Of course, VOR is obsolete technology now, and most of the world's VOR stations are being decommissioned, and that is reflected in Microsoft Flight Simulator. You know, it's matching the real world as best we can, and so if the VOR station in the real world has been shut down, then it will probably no longer exist in Flight Sim as well. But I would not be surprised if there is a modder out there that is re-adding legacy decommissioned VOR stations.
あ、コンコルドがおるじゃん。よくこんなスピードで飛べるな、コンコルド。カンカールだ。
Yes, we're now, as I see the comment from chat, we're on our final waypoint of Flying Friday today. En route to Charlie Yankee Delta Foxtrot for our full stop landing. Carl says compass, sextant, and stopwatch for the hardcore ones. Yeah, you can do that actually.
美しいね。
For celestial navigation, where you literally can use a
美しい
sextant
け
and
ど
get a star fix in the sim.
性能を発揮しとらんね。
It works. Captain Arash actually learned how to do that.
ブリティッシュエアウェイズ、もう完全に着陸する時の後方行角モードでくちばしが下がってますからな。
It's fine. It's fine. I think 2500 is okay. Should be fine.
Concord.
That actually is not. 27. That is fine.
Look at this. I've got a extra on my wingtip now. Always a fun plane to fly in Flight Sim. One of the most agile and maneuverable ones out there.
うん、 こんな飛行機だとフラフラやろね。こんな飛行機じゃない、こんなスピードだと。
There it is. Doing some maneuvers.
So twitchy to fly. And no autopilot. So whoever is flying that
スピッファイヤーが追い抜いてた。トモキャットも僕ら見たいっちゃ見たいね。
Yeah, Peter, I think you're right. Okay. Well, I don't know. Okay, what do you think? Chat, think I can clear this mountain ahead without disabling my autopilot?
Sure.
I'm also playing Autopilot Chicken. Oh dear. Oh.
What's your altitude, CD?
トモキャット
Oh,
は離脱中か、やっぱり置いて
Well, we'll see.
みんなについていけなくなって。
I've got my
エッ
finger
ジキャッ
on
ト、
this
ヘルキャット
autopilot.
か。ヘルキャット。
I did
ヘルキャットはこの間もみたいな。コルセア最近に一応らんな、そういえば。ダークスター、ダークスターのいるところ体調ありだから、この近くにおるのかもし
It's
れ
not
な
gonna
い。
be iffy. It's gonna be
見えない
lots.
だけで。
Oh yeah, no, definitely, yeah. Autopilot disabled. I'm just gonna go around this mountain to the left. We mentioned earlier the musical "Come From Away" and the character of Beverly Bass, who, of course, that is a real
Vision
person, that's her
Jet.
actual name.
A 点買ったのにおらんし、ビジョンジェット人気だのー。
She has a big musical number in Come From Away as well, all about aviation and why she loves flights and flying.
トリム、
It's
So,
actually a great idea, won't be.
トリムセンターでこのスピードで飛んでるともう機種上げになっちゃう。
But first we'll get it wrong. That's even better.
Some of you may know the Twitch streamer Katie Pilots. She is a real-world A320.
あ、エンジン切れた。
And she also streams Microsoft
わかった。
Flight Simulator on Twitch.
切り替え。
She's flying the Phoenix A320.
切り替えてくれ。
First plane she flies in her life.
危なかった。
And I mentioned, I saw on Twitter maybe a year or two ago, she went multiple times to go see Come From Away specifically because she really loved the character.
エンジン切れたじゃない。燃料切れた。燃料切れた、燃料切れた、燃料切れた。
Alright, I'm around that mountain now and autopilot re-enabled. Terrain. Terrain. Pull up.
Yeah, she would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
But then a bit more sassy.
Yeah.
Like,
The rain. Hello.
mountain.
Hello.
You know what I would like? If that voice was like a real, like a stereotypical like, valley girl. Hey, pull up. Like that kind of thing.
Nagging.
Yeah.
Hurrah!
That was the nickname of it, right? Nagging. What was it?
No, so the name they used was Betty, and it's
Betty. Oh, yeah, yeah. That's my bad. What else does we?
飛行機が故障してる。こんな音をせたかいんかだけど、本当にこの飛行機。
Should we ask where Chet is from? And then let Tom read it out.
all right, Tom. Peter has volunteered you. It's
Wow.
Peter's fault. I just want to point that out. It's not my fault. It's Peter's fault. Chat, where's everyone from? And Tom.
ホーネットがこっちを抜いていくような気がするけど、あれ
Cambridge,
か。
Nova Scotia, Gibraltar, Paris, Lancashire, UK, Oklahoma, South Norway,
T30
Albany,
T37
Belgium,
お
Toronto, Germany, Ingolstadt, Italy, Hungary, Northern Ohio, India, Germany, London, Why, Vitebsk, Uzbek, Latvia, Nova Scotia, Tennessee, South of France, Michigan,
なんかあ
30
る。
minutes north of downtown Calgary, Tønsberg, Norway.
So I gotta interrupt you 1 second. Airdrie is not 20 minutes north of downtown Calgary, you filthy liar.
思ったら気のせいだったか。
Norway, Hamilton, Scotland,
ランドマークがあると思ったの。
Slovakia, Kittanning, Germany, South Dakota, 550 Medicine Hat, Amsterdam, Newfoundland and Labrador, New Brunswick, Peter, spam, Calgary.
No, that's not spam. These are actual.
I know. Peruvian and Boston. And Dot Wallop is disappointed that I pronounced this town correctly. No, Peter. Switzerland, Estonia, Poland, North Seattle, where? Philadelphia, Portugal. Efjayayako Yakic. UK. Well, I mean,
It's Eyapayala Yugal. Everybody knows that.
Factual Ashley has rehearsed how to pronounce that. She's complimenting Simtom's pronunciation. So here's a question I have for chats. What happened to all our flight sim players from Kiribati? We had so many, on launch day. Like literally hundreds of thousands. There were more people playing flight sim from Kiribati than there were actual real residents of Kiribati.
夕方だった
So
か
where
ら
did they all
ね。
go?
だんだん日が沈んでいくんだね。
Dot Wallop says I moved.
ちなみにリアルタイムライブ気象です。
No, I actually.
まあライブ気象は本当に現実と同じかどうか怪しいけど。
Everywhere it was like 8 in the evening or something, right? Might have.
でもまあロマンはあります。
Yeah. Your cat was.
Hey, your camera.
あれ今度は草を。
It still isn't on
あれ
stream.
別の人だなでも。あなんか変な
Do you- do
バ
you
グだな
hear
この
Tom?
地形はきっと。
I hear Tom, yeah.
Me too. Chat.
てっぺんに一本だけ木が生えてるのも。じゃあこの山はあれですな。波平さんと名付けますか。波平さんだ。
I've got Simtom's videos coming.
波平さんのさんは山っていう字ですね。
It's a temporary blip, I guess.
今日
Long live the internet.
ちょっと記念に波平
Right,
さ
Tom,
ん
will
を
you do a mic check? Make sure
一
chat
周しときますか。
can hear you again.
Hello. Dot Wallop says I need a new computer. It's trash.
本当に
He's not
い
wrong.
つものイーグルと比べるとちっこく回れますな。こうぶつかっちゃうぐらいちっこく回れる。でみんなと向きが反対向になっとった。
I mean, flying the
Cheeky
Dark
though.
Star became boring, evidently, because he's now flying the Dark Star upside down.
Always gotta find a way to challenge yourself.
Right? There he is. Yeah. He's fine.
And I already
Nauseated, but fine.
do a little reminder that next week this flying will be 1 hour earlier.
Again.
Oh, no, 1 hour later. Oh, you want to move it to 1800s?
Because then it's the same local time as we
Yeah.
had it before.
Okay, so not 2000, 1800. Okay. Yes. So, for those of us in North America, we switched from standard time to daylight saving time 3 weeks ago. For most of Europe, switched to daylight saving time last weekend. So we are going to adjust the start time for Community Fly-In Friday from 1900 Zulu to 1800 Zulu. And as Factual points out, again, repeating the joke from earlier, still a half hour later in Newfoundland. Well, that's the big Factual. Zulu time is constant, no matter where you are, that's why we use it. UTC never changes. It doesn't have daylight savings, doesn't have standard.
なんかズールタイムと UTC の違いについて説明しておらっしゃいますな。
Actually fun that you'll use NL because it's also Netherlands normally. So I think that you read Newfoundland.
Well, I knew what she meant. You have to read the context of that. So it's actually that's the official provincial abbreviation for Newfoundland and Labrador.
In Canada, yeah. But when I would read it, I would blindly read it.
Yes, of course. You have to think if she's talking about the Canadian province or the European country.
Seems like I have a younger Tom Cruise flying next to me.
Sim Tom Cruise? Or?
軸飛行じゃい。
He doesn't have the Tom Cruise livery, right?
ペンペンペペペンペン。
Yes, Factual Gull does point out, I'm not going to read her comment, but you can read it yourself in chat. That is the actual name of a real town in Newfoundland. You can look that up. The name of the town, the sign that says welcome to this town, keeps getting stolen.
Like that one town in, was it Austria?
Yes, I know what you mean too. Might be a little low down here. Just kind of skimming the ground. It might climb to
びっくりした。
2,500.
That was after renaming it. Yeah.
コントローラーとかで操縦しているとこういう風になっちゃうのかもしれないですね。ああ、びっくりした。もうやめて。なんか失速警報が鳴ったような気がするから、真相に悪い。
So loud. So obnoxious. Yes.
It's supposed to be loud and obnoxious, though.
I know. That's why I'm keeping it like that.
It saves lives by being loud and obnoxious.
Same as the gear warm.
Currently 35 miles. It's 16 minutes.
だいぶ燃料も心細くなってきた気がするけれども、もう時間的にもフィニッシュに近いのではなかろうか。全然速度130ノット巡航より速かったような気がするけど。T37 ってなんだろう。
Well, something just happened there.
You went off course for quite a bit.
It's because I set up an ILS approach.
Fair. Might be the same issue.
ILS 25.
Is that what we should do?
Well, if you want to be super lazy like me.
Yeah, I want to be super lazy like you.
with the Duspo transition.
Dispo initial approach fix. Ah, that looks fine. Ah, yeah.
Let's do that.
I'll first put it on heading mode. Yeah.
Mr. Comavo says one of my favorite airplanes is the Lockheed L-1011 TriStar. Yeah, in the era before the authorities allowed twin-engine airplanes to fly overseas routes, the three-engine, the tri-motor, became all the rage for a while. DC-10, of course, was another famous tri-motor.
Yo.
But then the authorities loosened their restrictions and allowed ETOPS. This acronym stands for Extended Twin Engine Operations to fly overseas. And now you have planes like the 777, 787, A350, etc. All fly with twin engines on overseas flights, including all the way across the Pacific Ocean. One of my favorite aircraft that I wish was in the game, the famous Avro Vulcan. It's under development.
Well, it's coming.
Yeah. Which third-party dev is making that?
Just flights.
Just flights, yeah.
Oh, so it will be a nice one as well.
Yeah, Just Flight. You can look that up online. Just Flight is making an Avro Vulcan.
Right for rudder, 3 degrees dark.
Dot Wallop says ETOP stands for engines turn on or passengers swim.
Accurate.
How is ATR-72 going? Oh, well, Whiskey Tango Air. We actually showcased that. We had the developer, Hans Hartmann, appeared on our developer live stream last week to showcase some of the progress. And basically, comments we saw afterwards, people seemed really impressed by how the development is going. Scheduled for release next month in April, which, that's, hey, April's tomorrow. The plane's not launching tomorrow, but it's coming sometime in April. At least according to the schedule. Of course, things could always change. We don't commit to a final date until we know for sure that it's absolutely final. But planned for an April release is the ATR.
燃料大
And
丈夫か
you can see some of the progress and the development of that in last week's live stream. It's going to be the first of what we're calling our expert series of aircraft. So we have local legends, we have famous
130ノット以上のスピードで飛んでますけど
and the ATR is going to be the expert series 1. So we're really looking forward to see how
180 ノット
react to the release.
こんなスピードで飛ん
I
で
know it's
た
been
ら
a long time coming.
イーグルでも
First
全
announced
然
over
い
a
け
year
たかも
ago.
ね今日はね
But the team, I know, is very pleased with the
しか
progress.
し
And just based on comments,
規
feedback
制
from
も
players
せんな
after
き
watching
こ
that
と
preview during last week's developer stream, players seem really excited for that as well. Lupus says, fly someone of you in a glider as a passenger or as a PIC in real. Yes, Lupo, I'm a licensed glider pilot. In fact, I learned how to fly gliders before I learned how to pilot pilots. My first solo flight was in a glider. So yes, I do know how to fly gliders IRL.
黄色に差し掛かりつつあると燃料は
Lunky Amos says, at my local museum, Duxford, you can see 3 Olympus-powered aircraft, the Vulcan, the TSR-2, and the Concorde together. Yes, Imperial War
4時
Museum,
間
Duxford. I've been there a few times when I visit the UK, and one time, this was
5時
not
54
planned,
分
purely by chance. I arrived, I got out of the vehicle in the parking lot at IWM Duxford, and heard overhead the unmistakable sound of a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. And I looked up, and there was a Spitfire doing maneuvers overhead when I arrived at Duxford. And that was a real treat, just to be able to see a Spitfire.
やっぱりこの凍ってるところは
And it turns out that you give rides. You can spend a ridiculous amount of money, and one of these days I will do it. It's something like 5,000 British pounds or something for a 30-minute
この地図本当に合ってるのか
It's
陸
about-
地と
But
海と
one of these days I will do it, because what an opportunity that would be.
Is it in Britain or Canada?
Yeah, in
海じゃなくて
I don't know
湖
if that's
か
the
な
exact price. I think it's something like that. Someone in chat
Yeah.
can look up to see how much
Some,
the exact
somewhere
price
in a few thousand.
is. Yeah. In
Yeah,
fact, I
that
will
is-
look that up right now.
£3,000. The T6 are. T6 is nice as well, but it doesn't. It's not a Spitfire, right? Are you allowed to steer it, or are you only flying? Can you do werewolves?
Okay.
燃料
Here we
が
go. I'm
心
gonna
配
put
に
on
なっ
my
てきた。
screen right now. I've got the
どうしようか、燃料給油するか。
Spitfire flight experiences from
着
Duxford
陸
Air.
寸前でまた切れたりすると泣いちゃうからな。
Starting from 3,000 British pounds.
Oof.
What is included?
あ、でもゴールが見えてきた。
30, 40, 50,
大丈夫かな、こんだけあれば。
Define flying experience. Can I hold the
T37 ってどんな飛行機だろう。
That's not £1,000.
持ってない飛行機なのかもね。
More like spending experience, yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, so my question is, if I spend that insane amount of money, do I actually get to steer it, or do I just get to fly along
I would
in
guess,
it?
given how there are so few Spitfires still left in flying condition, that they don't want to risk any of them. They only allow very senior qualified pilots to control them, and I would doubt they would give you control.
It's just having the feel for it, right? I'm
Yeah,
not
I
gonna
know,
do
I get it, I understand.
Not gonna do any loopings or something. Well, not much loopings at least. Not that many.
ここら辺のなんか飛行機の区別がつくっていうか、飛行機をよく知らないんだよな。
Oh, here's an interesting fact. The runway edge lights are blue at Charlie Yankee Delta Foxtrot.
これが本当に
Normally, runway lights are
T37
white
っていう飛行機なの
and
か、
accent lights are blue. That's an international
私が持ってないので別の飛行機が見えているのか全く分かりません。分かりませんが。
unknown person 659. How do you change servers? Go to your options
本
menu
当
and
に
click your
横の安
username
定
in
性
the
が。
top right corner of the screen.
Press escape.
Ah!
Click the user,
ゴールが見えた。
you see this,
あ、これは着陸するんか。じゃあ
If
ち
you're
ょっ
on
と
Xbox, hit the hammer.
アプローチエアフォース、あれも飛んどったか、台風の
I'm
古いや
usually
つ。
behind the 225 sim approach. I'll slow down a bit because I might overtake it.
スローダウン。
I'm currently 12 miles out from the full stop landing.
もっとスローダウン。
Tom, Peter, how far are you away?
4.9 miles to the final approach.
Seems like 10 something.
Okay, we'll put it on Peter's view first then.
But I'll be doing a really lazy.
Zachary, we're in Newfoundland this week for Community Flying Friday in recognition of today's date, March 31st, 1949, being the date that the province of Newfoundland was admitted into Canada. And then in 2001, it officially was renamed the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Final destination on today's flight, if you want to spawn in there, if you're joining us late and just want to see some of the other planes land. Charlie Yankee Delta Foxtrot, CYDF.
Does anybody have the nav frequency? Because mine didn't.
Yes, it's 108.3 or decimal.
108.3.
And for all the details, 246 is the course.
うん、びっくりした。車輪出すの忘れてたから、この飛行機は出さなくてもいいやつだった。
At altitude of 2,000 feet.
It's fine.
It's
So I mentioned how I learned how to fly gliders earlier. Here's actually a fun Newfoundland connection to the gliders that I learned how to fly. One of them, the tail numbers. This you can probably look this up online. It's probably still flying today, I would guess. The registration number was CGFNG, Charlie Golf Foxtrot November Golf. And this glider actually was involved in a non-fatal crash in Gander, Newfoundland. And they repaired it and restored it to flying condition, but everyone would always say that that glider never flew quite right again after it had been involved in that crash.
ユーロファイター台風
And
か、こ
so
れ
it
が。
was affectionately known
台風、
CGFNG,
古い方の
first in Gander,
やつか。
frickin' Newfoundland glider.
Wait.
目の前を。
Someone is in the river next to the airport.
トムキャット。
Oh, Axel was also. Oopsie.
なんか大きいのが乗り越えてった。大きいのっていうほど大きな DC3。あ、コンコルド来た。この交換はマジ。あ、タイさんも飛んでたんですか。途中で見かけませんでしたが。うわ、でかいのが来た。大人と子供ぐらいの違いがあるね。オスプレイはなぜか着陸してもローターが上を向かない。なんだろうな、あの人たちは。ヘリコプターなのかな。おお。ありがとうございました。このフィーってのはちょっとやめていただけるといいかな。あ、大佐、かっこええな、大佐。じゃあ、ということでお疲れ様でした。点が見れなかったのはちょっと残念でございますね。痛恨。